that life has meaning, and that their lives have significance, and that their every deed has a significance, that rubs off on you. And it's like when you're davening, when you're praying with people who actually believe in what they're doing, it has an effect on you, as opposed to where you're the strongest believer in the shul. I've had that experience.
So bring that, and we can now answer with this one of your earlier questions. So, why did Hasidic thought or Jewish mystical thought in general take off? Why was the Ari so transformational in Jewish history? So the reason is because the underlying idea behind particularly post-Ari, post-Lurianic Jewish thought, Jewish mystical thought, is that you're not simply it's not just an act of obedience, like you get a gold star from God for doing the right thing, like you hear some schools of thought. It's not like you get a plus or you get a minus. The idea was that every individual in the world was part of a larger, great cosmic drama.
Yeah.
And that every time that you said a bracha with proper intent, or a blessing, or did the right thing, or said the right word, or davened correctly, you were sort of changing the spiritual quanta of the universe. The world was different because you did what you did.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned before, this idea that even from your biography, where you were coming from, was a critical component. So it's kind of like, if you remember those old TV sets where you adjusted the color.
Right.
So like if you turn the color up,
right.
You oversaturate it and make it real. That's what life in that way of thinking in Israel, in those kind of communities, was like, and compared to here. If you manage to daven in time to get to work,
right.
In
you're
some way,
safe.
You feel good about you feel like you've done your duty. But when you look on Shabbat at Yakar in those days, you had all these people, right? All these like
great figures like Mark Shapiro,
and you had Aviva Zornberg there, and people who were giving the shiurim on Shabbat.
Right.
You went in, you didn't know what you were going to hear. Right. It was like really exciting. There wasn't sermons.
Right.
There you sit through the sermon, you live through it. People were like creating. They were reading. They were thinking.
We have someone who comes into the chat room just now. Our first comment of the evening, and this person is denying the concept of tshuva, saying this moral leader, a reformed porn king. What a bunch of BS! He is denying that people can change. Why not celebrate our country, America's freedom?
Where did we not celebrate our country's freedom?
Well, we were just talking about the holiness, the condition of the land of Israel.
We have to kick out every...
Yeah, and it's a holiness that can genuinely transform lives. Even from the most abject sinner can be transformed in the... There's a special quality to the light in Israel. Like the sun comes and the light is different in Israel.
It's not. I don't know if it's the light or what you see.
The light seems different to me
because you perceive it different.
And the Jerusalem stone, it reflects off the Jerusalem stone, and the morning and the evening, and the sun setting and rising against the Jerusalem stone. All the buildings in Jerusalem pretty much are the outer is Jerusalem stone.
That's a really interesting question, though. I gotta say, I like that question. That is, it's like this idea. See, that's where Judaism differs from other world religions. It's on that idea of tshuva, that it's actually attainable. See, in Christianity, of course, the whole central point is that you cannot transform. That sin is so
right. You need a savior,
transformative, that it needs to be done by an external means. It can't be done on your own. But in Judaism, it is the word is transformative. Every word of your own word in the proper intent and can become Torah, so to speak. Even as far away as a person can fall, they can come back and undo and even teach.
Hmm.
As a result of that journey. The journey matters.
Mm-hmm.
The journey matters.
I found such a
The
dramatic.
journey is the name of God,
Hmm.
according to as we again keep summarizing this. The 42 steps in the way
Mhm.
from
Mm-hmm.
through the desert, through life.
Mm-hmm.
Those words that's a journey that
Yeah. We all have a journey.
achieves transcendence.
Yeah. I was just thinking about the dramatic difference between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. When I was there, like Tel Aviv struck me as very similar to Los Angeles.
I lived in Givat Shmuel for a while, which was unbelievable, which is right outside of Tel Aviv. And Bnei Brak is not far from Tel Aviv. But Givat Shmuel, we had an even cooler minyan there. We had the greatest minyan ever. Nobody, I don't think, like Shabbat is not the same. If anybody went,
Mm-hmm.
it's a, they had a shul just near Bar Ilan that all the members, a lot of the people there were yeshiva graduates, Hesder yeshiva graduates who were either in the computer world or teaching at Bar Ilan. There was no rabbi because the level of the congregation was so high that we just traded off giving shiurim. I gave shiurim, but we had people from the Talmud department and all the professors at Bar Ilan. And they created a davening based on the Carlebach Mitzvah. It's unbelievable. It's
Wow.
American.
Wow.
This guy Baruch Kaplan, a Los Angeles guy actually.
Wow.
Originally from Los Angeles, a doctor, a dermatologist,
Uh-huh.
a dermatologic surgeon, and this other guy who was a Rosh Yeshiva created this Carlebach Hasidic modern version of davening that was absolutely perfect. On Friday, there was hundreds of people would come there on Friday nights. They would dance around inside the shul during the Chadodi. But this was all, and it was all like academic people and intellectual people. It's unbelievable. So I think you just have to know where to look. Tel Aviv, everything, when you see any place you go on the surface, it's. I just came back from Spain, and you walk around in Spain, and all you see are like hookers all over the place.
Really?
Yeah, and you think like, what is going on? But that's nothing. That is what the tourists,
Right.
because they those
Yeah.
kind of things lurk in tourist areas.
Yeah.
But obviously when you go deeper than that, you see a whole other world. So I wouldn't write off Tel Aviv.
I didn't see any streetwalkers in Jerusalem.
No.
What about Tel Aviv? Did you see any streetwalkers?
I didn't hang around in those areas.
Yeah.
There's areas where the foreigners are or the tourists are.
Right, and the Russian girls that they bring in, but
Apparently it's even nasty, but
yeah, but the idea of prayer having
yeah. But let's get
meaning
back to that.
and yeah, prayer having meaning and joy. It's not something you find very often in synagogues. So you're able to find that in Israel at several
Again,
places.
so much of Jewish life in exile, so to speak, in the diaspora, is bent on simply surviving.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very hard when you're, when the organism is in survival mode, like when there's no food. It's very hard for people don't become creative at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
That you need to be in a place much more, where you're beyond just trying to survive.
Seems like Torah is a very challenging.
Also, you got to keep in mind that the problem is, remember that coming back to the centrality of the
Mm-hmm.
word, when you can't actually read the word,
Yeah.
it's very foreign.
Yeah.
So, I suppose, it's like reading poetry in a foreign language, if you can even understand it. At best, you can read it in translation, which may or may not actually contain what's actually there. Much the good stuff
Mm-hmm.
is not translated. Most of what you find in Jewish books in English in America, everything's a kiruv or a beginner's book. The justification for everything in Art Scroll, it's all missionary. If I may use that word.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing for advanced people
Mm-hmm.
to read beyond very simplistic stuff that's usually transmitted with a sort of political message.
Mm-hmm.
You can't access the real stuff without the language.